The rain had a way of speaking. On the day Faith arrived at Donald's home, it was raining gently, just soft enough to feel like a whisper. She stood by the black iron gate, a threadbare bag clutched to her chest. A small umbrella covered only half of her worn frame, and her shoes had long surrendered to the puddles. Donald opened the door after her fourth knock. He was a tall man with deep eyes that looked like they once held joy but had forgotten how to shine. He didn't smile, only stepped aside so she could enter. "You're early," he said, his voice low. "I didn't want to miss the opportunity," Faith answered quietly. He nodded. "Follow me." Faith had come to be a housemaid, just another girl trying to make a living in a city that ate people whole. Donald lived alone in a two-story house, too big for one man and too cold for comfort. There were no family portraits, no flowers in vases, no smell of food, only dust, shadows, and silence. Faith worked quietly. She cleaned, she cooked, she mended the curtains, and over time, the silence of the house began to change. Donald noticed that the floor no longer creaked with dust. The kitchen, once a graveyard of empty plates, now smelled of pepper soup and yam porridge. She didn't ask questions, and he didn't offer answers. But sometimes, she caught him watching her, not with desire, but with curiosity, like he was trying to remember something long forgotten. One night, Donald walked into the kitchen as Faith was putting away dishes. "You remind me of someone," he said suddenly. Faith looked up, startled. "Sir, my wife. Her name was Amaka," he said, more to himself than to her. "She used to hum when she washed dishes. Like you do." "I'm sorry," Faith whispered. "Don't be." "She left, took our daughter and left. 10 years ago." Faith didn't know what to say. Instead, she stepped closer and gently said, "Pain doesn't go away just because time passes." He looked at her then, really looked, and something fragile passed between them. Not quite love, not yet, but something aching and human. Faith came from a village where girls were told their worth was in their obedience. She had worked in 2 other homes before Donald's, one where the man had tried to touch her, and another where the madam screamed insults until Faith felt smaller than the mop in her hands. But Faith never told Donald about those places. She also didn't tell him that her real name was Athananya. She had changed it when she ran away after her father sold her into early marriage. Faith was the name she gave herself, the name of the girl she wanted to become. Donald, too, told his lies. He told himself he didn't care that Amaka had left. He told himself he was fine alone, that he didn't miss his daughter, who would be 17 now. He buried all that pain under quiet mornings and red wine at night. One evening, after months of shared silences and gentle laughter, Donald found Faith crying in the laundry room. She had received a letter from her younger brother. Their mother had died. Faith hadn't seen her in 4 years. She was kneeling beside a pile of clothes, tears soaking the collar of a white shirt. Donald walked in, unsure of what to do. "She's gone," Faith sobbed. "I didn't even say goodbye." For the first time, Donald knelt beside her and held her. It wasn't romantic, just the power of an embrace that says, "I see your pain, and I won't let it drown you alone." After that day, something shifted. Faith began to stay longer in the evenings. Sometimes, she would fall asleep on the sofa after cleaning, and Donald would cover her with a blanket. He started bringing her small gifts, a pair of soft slippers, a book she mentioned she loved, a scarf when the weather grew cold. One night, as Harmattan blew through the window cracks, they sat beside the fire. He told her about his daughter, Kamsi. "She would have liked you," he said. "You're gentle and strong." Faith looked at him. "You talk about her like she's a memory, not a person." "She doesn't write. I don't know where they are. Amaka blocked every road between us. Maybe she's waiting for you to find her," Faith said. Donald smiled sadly. "I've waited for so long, I don't know what to believe anymore." That night, he kissed her. It was not hurried or lustful. It was slow, as if he were afraid she might disappear. Faith kissed him back, but her heart was a battlefield, one side pulling toward love, the other wrapped in fear. She knew what people would say, "She's a housemaid. What does she know about love?" But wasn't love about showing up for someone every day, about holding them when they cried, about staying, even when you had every reason to leave? Their love, if that's what it was, became a secret held in quiet moments and glances across the hallway. But secrets, like wounds, fester when hidden. One Sunday afternoon, Donald's sister, Maureen, came to visit. She was sharp-tongued and full of judgment. "I see you've let the help run the place now," she sneered, eyeing Faith. "She's not just the help," Donald replied calmly. Maureen laughed. "Oh, I see. You've taken her to bed too. You always had a weakness for fragile women." Faith stood there, stung by the words. She had thought maybe, just maybe, she had found a place to belong. But Maureen's words reminded her, she was still just the housemaid. After Maureen left, Faith packed her bag. Donald came in to find her at the door. "Where are you going?" "Back to where I came from. Before I forget who I am." Donald reached for her hand. "Please, don't go. I love you," she said, voice breaking. "But love isn't enough when the world still sees me as your housemaid." She left that night, walking into the rain like the first day, but this time, she didn't look back. 2 years passed. Donald's house returned to silence. He tried to find Faith, but she had vanished. He asked around, went to the agency, even traveled to her old village. No one knew where she was. In the loneliness, he found himself writing letters to his daughter, though he had no address. He poured his heart into them, hoping she might somehow read his words in the wind. One day, a knock came at the door. Donald opened it, and there she was. Faith. Her eyes were older, but her presence was still soft. She had grown into herself. "I work at a small clinic now," she said, unsure. "I came to see if you were okay." He stared at her, silent, as if afraid she might vanish again. "Why did you come back?" he asked. "Because I never stopped loving you," she said. "And because I finally forgave myself for wanting more." He stepped forward, slowly. "I missed you every single day." "I know." Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He cried. Not from weakness, but from relief. And Faith did what she always did best. She embraced him. They never married. The world still judged. But Faith stayed, not as a housemaid, but as a woman who had chosen love on her own terms. Donald eventually found Kamsi. She was living in Lagos, studying art. He wrote her letters, and one day, she wrote back. "Is it true you live with someone now?" she asked during their first phone call. "Yes," Donald said. "Her name is Faith." Kamsi was quiet for a while. Then she said, "If she makes you happy, then that's enough for me." And it was. This is not a story of happy endings. It is a story of people who carried pain like second skin, who found love in the wrong places, and yet made something beautiful from the ashes. It is about Faith, who gave her heart, despite the odds. About Donald, who learned that love doesn't always arrive in the way we expect. And it is a story for anyone who has ever stood in the rain and waited to be seen. Because sometimes, the greatest embrace is not physical, it is simply being held by someone who knows your story, and chooses to stay.